I'm joined by Dr. William Phillip of the Tron Church Glasgow, who, along with 19 other church leaders, has written to the Scottish Government urging it to rethink its plans to bring forward a ban on conversion therapy. William, why did you decide to write this joint letter?
I think there's lots of reasons. One thing I think is worth saying is that the very term conversion therapy is a very unfortunate one, especially for any Christian, because it subtly equates what is a spiritual experience with something that perhaps people might take as torture or coercion or abuse. And of course, all of these things are already illegal, whether they're in a religious context or any other context, and rightly so. But the irony here is that the Scottish Government is wanting to ban, under that term, innocuous things like conversations, like advice, like prayer, whilst at the same time, actually, it's promoting what I would call irreversible conversion therapy, surgical mutilation, powerful drugs and hormones and so on for transgender treatments and so on. There's an absurdity about this, but there's also a real danger because, we've seen this with some of the other laws to do with trans. These are the sorts of things that lead to, the problem that we've had with rapists, male rapists going into a female prison. This is the dangerous kind of track that led to the First Minister having to step down and so on. So we're wanting to point out a danger here to the government. But our principal reason for writing this letter is a broad concern for Scottish society. Here is a law that will criminalise normal, loving interactions between parents and children, between pastors and their congregations, and indeed in other faiths, and synagogues and mosques and so on. This is a very sinister thing for any society. And I'm afraid the Scottish Government has form on this because some years ago, when they tried to pass the named person legislation, that was challenged and struck down in the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court used the word totalitarian. It said the government is trying to drive a wedge between children and families and trying to indoctrinate them into their ruler's view of the world. Now, that is a very alarming thing. That is not a feature of a free and tolerant society, which is what we want to see in our beloved country of Scotland. How can we have got to the point where we're talking about banning silent prayer, banning, this is thought crime. This is Orwell's 1984 and Huxley's Brave New World all being rolled into one. This is not a healthy thing for Scottish society. This is not what Scottish people want. And indeed, legal advice, I think, is very clear on this. This will be struck down. It will lead to another disaster. So we're doing this for the benefit of all Scottish society, for the help of better government, and because we care, because we love our neighbours. And that's the command of God. That's true Christianity. That's the evidence of something that is healthy for society, not something that is a danger, and certainly not something that is abusive or coercive or anything of that kind. And we just think the government really seriously needs to think again.